Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Righteous Review. I'm Jake Turner, joined by Father Bo, and we have a special guest today, my daughter Juliana, who's home from college.
Great. Well, it's good to have
I'm
you.
a senior experimental psychology major at Franciscan University, which is a very Catholic school. And
I'd love to get into what experimental psychology actually means, but I don't know if it's is that outside the bounds of what we're doing on this
that's a
show.
whole tangent.
We have 6 hours.
But yeah, it sounds fascinating.
So good to see you, Father.
Great.
I haven't spoken to you Christmas,
Yeah.
Merry
So
Christmas, I guess.
Merry Christmas,
right?
Happy New Year. Yeah. Well, I really wanted to get our Christmas review in. So it's sad that we weren't able to do that, but we'll do one this week. We're after New Year's. It's January 6th right now. So we'll do one today. We'll review a Christmas homily. We're actually going to review my Christmas homily because I think it's unfair that we review other people's homilies and not myself. I'm not going to be in the review, so we're just going to have Jake and Juliana listen to my homily. Unfortunately, there's no video. I had complications on the day, and I think this will just happen here because I don't have a stable setup. I'm just kind of bringing whatever I have with me. And I just found out the other day that one of the recordings that I made a while back just didn't even record. So I have a couple that are just... Yeah, go ahead.
Can you lip sync? Can you lip sync maybe? Like Mariah Carey's Christmas performance or something.
Well,
like
they
that?
kind of can realize that I'm not in the church. I mean, I could be a part of the review, but I think it would just be good to have your guys' reaction. That's really all I'm looking for as I give my homily. So yeah, we'll be reviewing my homily today. It'll just be audio. And I'm excited to have you listen to this one. I think it's a little unfair that I chose this one because it's one of my favorites. So I'm like, yeah, no, don't review my homilies. It's only fair if we look at what I say, and then here I'm giving like one of my favorite homilies that I ever gave. But not to toot my own horn. The one before that and the one after that was also like up there. So I mean, but no. I figured because we didn't have anything for Christmas, why not just listen to mine? And honestly, I want to know what people think about this homily because it's close to my heart. It's one of my favorites.
Let's get it.
I've never seen anybody else do it, so let's just go. Isn't it curious how forgetful we are as human beings? I mean, just think about it. So not only do we forget immediate things that just happened while we ate, sometimes when people ask us how our day was, we think back, what did I even do today? What was today? And then we forget major events in our life. Yeah, I'm convinced we're so forgetful that if we watched our life back on tape, first of all, it'd probably be a very boring tape. And it may be only interesting to one person. But if we watched our life back on tape, I imagine most of the time we'd be waiting in anticipation for what happens next. And I think we'd say often, oh yeah, that's right. Oh, I forgot that happened. Isn't it curious how forgetful we are? We're so forgetful. We have a strange saying that people will often tell us, or will tell to other people, remember what you have. So we're sitting there complaining about our family to somebody, and then somebody reminds us, well, remember what God gave you. Remember the family that you have. And in those moments, whether they're reminding us about our family or the other things that God has given us, our place in life, our job, what have you, maybe not in the moment, because maybe we're angry at our family, but maybe we could take a step back and say, oh yeah, I forgot. And how can we forget? They're right there. And yet somehow we can forget even the things that are right in front of us, like the beauty of our family, or gratitude for our job, or our place in life, or our circumstances in life. And so people remind us, remember what you have. We can even forget who we are. Strangely enough. this is actually a plot device in many stories that we tell, where the hero becomes the hero not through any spectacular event, not through any miracle, not through profound intervention, but just by remembering who they are. And then from that, they go and become that hero that they're meant to be. So we even forget who we are. You know, this is the plot device in the movie The Lion King. So there's a scene in the movie, and I encourage you to go watch this scene. It's a beautiful scene. Great reflection on our relationship with the Father. But there's a scene in the movie where Simba finds out the Rafiki. The baboon Rafiki, thank you, knows his father, or knew his father. So he chases after the baboon and he says, "You knew my father?" And Rafiki says, "Correction, I know your father." And Simba says, "Well, I'm sorry to tell you this, but he died." And Rafiki says, "Nope, wrong again." And he takes off over to the tree line and he says, "He's alive, and I will show him to you. Follow Rafiki, he knows the way." So Rafiki takes off in the jungle and Simba's chasing after him, and they're getting closer to the heart of the jungle. And all of a sudden he comes face to face with Rafiki's hand, and Rafiki says, "Stop! Shh! Look down there." And so Simba, as if he's about to catch some prey, is prowling forward. He goes down in between some reeds and then down a hill, and then comes face to face with a puddle. And in this pond, he sees himself. And of course, he says to Rafiki, "That's not my father, that's just my reflection." And Rafiki gives the best no ever. I think it's a no only a teacher could give. Rafiki says, "No. No, look harder." So Simba does. And a moment later, his face starts to morph into the face of his father, and he looks startled, and Rafiki says, "You see? He lives in you." And then it breaks, and suddenly, a moment later, he's in this field, and his father is coming toward him in the clouds. And he hears his father's voice, and his father says, "Simba, Simba, you have forgotten me." And for Simba, this is the worst thing he could ever heard. Of course he hasn't forgotten his father. He hasn't spent a day thinking about his father. Or not thinking about his father. Of course he hasn't forgotten. But then his father says, "You have forgotten yourself and so forgotten me. Look inside yourself, Simba. You are more than what you have become. You are my son." That's the change of the movie The Lion King. That's the whole crux of the movie. The pivot point on which everything turns is just Simba remembering who he is in the eyes of his father. And then Simba goes away from this Hakuna Matata, don't worry, to deciding to take on the responsibility that might even risking his life, to step into his role as king in the way of his father. Everything turns on that moment, just him remembering who he is. Shh. There's a lot of noise in our hearts. There's a lot of noise in our hearts almost always, but especially during these times. But this moment, we should quiet our hearts so that we can look harder. So we can look harder at this moment. And what do we see? If we look hard enough, well, firstly we see this
simple human being before us. And then we know in faith that this human being is God. And that itself is a marvel. If we could look hard enough at that, maybe we could come to understand more about who this God is and what he's calling us to, and the beauty of him and his goodness. Because we see in that our God's humility, which is a strange word to ascribe to God. And so that itself is to be pondered. Why would God show himself in humility? It seems almost antithetical to God. And so that tells us something about who God is, something to be pondered, but also his extreme generosity. And so if we look hard enough, we start to see who God is in a way that nothing else except his word could speak. But then as we look closer and as we realize what that means, we see God in this. We see God in us. You see, he lives in you. You see, we celebrate today, certainly, the only begotten of the Father, the Son of God. But especially today, because the Son is always chosen by the Father. But in this moment, through his choice of his Son, he also chooses us and calls you son and daughter. And that's the marvel of today. Remember who you are. You are your Father's son. You are your Father's daughter. You are more than what you have become. And so, no more Hakuna Matata. It's a tempting lie, a very tempting lie. It's the lie that says, oh, don't worry. You know, the king's it's kind of tyrannical. You know, there's a lot of responsibility there. You know, that's not the place of your happiness. You know, rather lay it back. You know, life, you know, just find the path that you want. Find your happiness. No more Hakuna Matata, because saying that means saying life doesn't matter. You can just do whatever you want. Because ultimately, that's just what we're here for. Just our personal happiness, and that's it. But that's not what life is all about. It's a tempting thing to choose, but that's not what life is about. Life is not just about happiness. You know, we all want happiness, and we should accept happiness when we come, but the better thing to choose, the thing that life is really directed towards, is the choice of goodness. It's telling a good story with our lives. And then maybe if we did that, then maybe we could experience the more distilled happiness, the more intense happiness, the happiness that we'd almost need a different word for. And maybe we call it joy. And this comes from choice of goodness, of telling a good story with our life. And in this moment, we remember that the story we're telling, it begins with our God's word, and it awaits our response. And so we tell a good story by responding to this moment, by responding to his word. And tell a good story while you can. I just got a text 2 days ago. A great friend of mine was rushed, emergency to the hospital. The situation is bad. She's carrying her cross right now. But she's told a good story with her life. And so she's prepared for this moment. And this moment even adds to the beauty of her story. But tell a good story while you can, because we don't know when it's going to be time for us to carry our cross, which is the message of Advent. Wake up, now is the time. Change while you can. Tell your story while you can. Give your response to God while there's still time left. Isn't it just fascinating how forgetful we are? We're so forgetful that it's important that every year we celebrate the same thing. We celebrate the incarnation of our Lord, so that every year we might have an opportunity to quiet our hearts, to look harder, and in that manger to encounter the God who would marvelously do such a thing, to come to understand him through his word. But in that, and seeing the eyes of Jesus in the manger, we might also remember who we are.
So there it is. There's my
Now we're gonna
homily
do-
for Christmas. Now I'm gonna await the pearl and also the sense of what they liked, what they didn't like, and then finally the grade from my Christmas homily.
Also, I didn't know you were the voice actor for like all the characters in The Lion King.
I mean,
Father-
this is my first time giving the homily, so I had a little bit of practice. Honestly, though, what I was struck by is I haven't listened to myself back, and I think I'm better in my head than I actually was. Like, it's good, but in my mind, I'm like, that was exactly Rafiki. But when I listen to it, I'm like, okay, it's kind of Rafiki, but it's, but it's a little off. But in my mind, dude, I sound great.
So, yeah, I mean, so for everybody, I've heard this homily before from Father Bo. So for me, I'm a little bit, I don't have the resounding effect of seeing him in person. Hearing, this is just the audio version. I only heard his voice. So for me, I need to see him and his actions and his faces doing the Rafiki
Yeah.
to really like capture everything that I've witnessed before. So, but the message is still there, and obviously the parody is remarkable. I love it. Your Rafiki acting has gotten better over the years, Father. Like it's
Okay,
actually
okay,
for me,
it's improved.
that was
Okay, it's
I
improved.
was kind of
All
blown
right.
away. I was
All
blown
right.
away. And I think you only saved the Rafiki accent when I heard it from you here at our parish for "Look hard." I think that was the only time you used it. Used it on multiple lines. So I loved it. Mufasa, Simba need a little.
Listen, I don't have the bass, dude. I don't have the bass. All right, what do you want from me? I try my best, and once again, in my head, I sound deep. I am the voice of the Father, but okay. But anyways, I appreciate the.
Awesome. It was awesome. And I just talked trash about it. My voice cracked. So, what was me? So, in any event, the homily's awesome. I love this homily. The message is remarkable. The pearl, for me, I'll let Jules do the pearl first because I like to challenge her, and then I'll give my pearl. But I would say, Jules, what is your pearl for this?
Identity, my pearl, or the pearl was
Yeah,
your
pearl.
identity. Your identity as the son or daughter of God the Father.
Terrible
Like
pearl.
knowing
Get
your
off the
identity.
show. Off the show. No. I think it's so good. I think it's so good. Yeah. Jake, did you want to add or give your?
Yeah,
pearl?
I would say my pearl would be from it would be remember. Just remember who created you. I think it's just remember.
Remember your identity.
Yeah, remember.
Yes.
I think if we just added remember to what Juliana said, I think that's it. But yeah, if you wanted to abbreviate it to just a word, I'd say remember is pretty good. Identity's good. I appreciate it. Jules, you kind of distilled something that wasn't in the homily. Like, I don't know if I ever said identity in God in the homily. But I said remember a ton. That my whole homily was about memory. It started with how forgetful we are and concluded with that. So I do appreciate you drew something that was the core of the homily, but wasn't actually stated, which typically your father does that. So it's good. It's good. Like daughter, like father. there.
Apple doesn't
But-
fall far from the tree.
Yep. But I would say both are very accurate. What do you guys think about using something like The Lion King and different voices in a homily?
That's like pinnacle of a homily for me. Like if you can make it fun and engaging and talk about the best movie in the world. But I've heard similar homilies too, like I don't know, like Father Matt Miller has like his Harry Potter one. But I think whatever you can do that can, especially like engaging younger kids and having
Yeah.
them understand it. It's good, but it's good for adults too, not even just for younger kids. It's good for
Mhm.
everyone. It's good to like simplify what you're saying because we throw around these words all the time, like oh yeah, you're a son or daughter, but it's like what does that actually mean, you know? And the way that you break it down by using a simple analogy of a kids movie is brilliant, and so people can actually they have like a clear example in their head of what it looks like to be the son or daughter of Christ, of the Father.
It's very tangible. It's very connecting. You know, it's relatable. Probably 90% of the people in the parish have seen that movie, I would think. You know, one would think there's maybe some elderly couples in there that have
Yeah,
never
there's
seen it, don't know
probably
what you're
some.
talking about.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you describe what the scene is
Yeah.
very vividly. You know, like you really bring it into context and you state exactly what's happening. And I don't think anybody sitting there wouldn't draw exactly what's happening from the movie scene into relation of the glory of our Father, you know, and seeing the emulation of us as humans that we're created in His image through that movie.
Mhm.
And for me, it was so cool because I've seen that movie probably prior to your homily 10 times, and I never grasped that. And 27.
27.
No, but I've seen it. I've seen it a lot. It's definitely one of my favorite Disney movies. And for whatever reason, during that moment, I would always kind of get emotional. Maybe, and maybe it was because of whoever was the writer or director or whoever like wanted to draw that context out of it. I have no idea, but it's so clear. It's so easily. There's no way of not thinking that now when you see
Right,
that. When
right.
you watch that.
But
And
when I
love
watched
that.
it as a kid, I didn't know. I didn't notice it.
hmm But it was always like it wasn't an emotional moment for you though. Like, wasn't it like?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Well, it's
when Mufasa died, that was like we were crying.
right.
But then like the redemptive component started coming around. Like then when he realized, you know what, let's go time. I need to man up and I need to take care of what I left behind and the frivolous nature of the way I live my life. Like I think all of us can relate to that. And in today's world, it's so applicable that you deliver this homily because we do get caught up in the nonsense and the the trash that's out there, the Hakuna Matata.
See,
And it's funny. That word is almost like it's almost kind of like a wacky like Hakuna Matata. It's almost jokey, you know?
Yeah. I had never okay.
Like, no more
Yeah,
Matata.
no more. Which for a lot of people, like that's like one of the best parts of the movie is when they're all just like eating bugs and they're all singing, and I'm not gonna sing the Hakuna Matata song now, but
Hakuna Matata. No. Where you at? Where you at?
Like later, after like their whole song is done, when they're all old, it's like okay, now you're just like burnt out, gross. Like, what are you even doing anymore? Like Simba and his gang, they're just like, Jenna, like,
I'll throw another crumb in my mouth.
like after everything's fun, it's like this is kind of pathetic now.
Yep. And I never considered that as a negative, like as something, as like the other path that Simba. I don't know why.
I didn't either.
In my mind, it was always like, oh yeah, Hakuna Matata, that's fine, and then do this thing now. I never considered them as like the two paths. He went down the Hakuna Matata road, but that road is not the road he's supposed to be going down, and he has to choose a different one. I never saw those as the two choices as opposed to one another, but they are opposed to one another, and it's the same with us. Like if we want to live goodness and tell a good story, we can't live Hakuna Matata because that means you can't just do whatever you want. Because if we live our own happiness, we end up like them, which is just overstuffed with grubs and just our life isn't good. It's not pleasant to look at. It's not a good story. Nobody wants to. But if you think about our culture, I didn't tell this in my homily, but I thought about that. If you look at our culture, it would praise Simba for going down that road.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would say, "Yeah, good on you, man! Like get out of your father's, tyrannical power. Good on you. Keep going. Keep just searching for you."
Free bird.
yeah.
Like from the 70s.
I mean, whoever, anybody who likes
Cause I'm
Eagles out
as
there, like,
free as a bird now.
is that the Eagles? I hope it is.
It is the
Right,
Eagles.
it's
It is the Eagles.
Okay.
Yep. And
So yeah, I mean, general context, Father. You're a remarkable storyteller. You know, again, it would have been. I would have. It's hard for me to grade it thoroughly without seeing you. I just think seeing a priest is important when you see they're delivering a passionate message as such.
Yeah.
And you telling a story, you know, seeing the priest when they're a remarkable storyteller would have been much helpful in
That's
the
fair.
homily.
That's fair.
So
That's fair.
I'll negate that and just I've seen it before and I'll pretend on that. My only insight or I guess critique in essence would be at the beginning when you talk about us forgetting who we are, forgetting our identity, forgetting who we are. You assume that I guess the majority of the parishioners understand exactly the context of what you're saying, and then you lead into the story. Maybe throw the exact because like I can see some people being like, I know who I am. I'm Bobby Jones, you know, and I'm a welder.
Bobby.
I don't know. No,
Maybe there is a Bobby Jones. How do you know there's not a Bobby Jones in my parish?
I could see, you know, some people being like, well, you know, I don't think I don't know who I am or I lose sight of who I am. But I know your message is we lose sight of what our vocation is, of our connection to the Father, that we're created by the Father. Mm-hmm. So maybe bring in a context prior to the story to say, you know, when we forget who we are, we forget our path to salvation. We get stuck in the day-to-day mundane stuff that we do. You know, maybe draw a little bit of context to that.
That's good.
I'd argue that he kind of not explained exactly what you said, but the way that he started with like you forget who you are, and then by bringing in the Lion King analogy, it's like this is what it looks like to forget who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Hakuna Matata.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
I could, and I appreciate that. I could, you know, because we even get this, like, you're driving along the side of the road and you see somebody in need, and the just base human part of you says, oh, they'll find somebody, you know, I'm busy, you know, I got things to do, I got all this. But who are you? Are you a Christian or are you not? Like, are you supposed to help those in need or not? You know, it's like, what are you supposed to... So even in that moment, it's like, well, if you remember who you are, you've forgotten who you are. You're a Christian. You're meant to help people in need. So are you going to help them? You know, or are you too afraid of, you know, being taken advantage of or losing track of your schedule? And so, you know, I could give an example like that, or, you know, there's probably plenty of others out there. So you're right. I could throw in something there.
But in the grand scheme, just again, remarkable story, amazing reminder of where we are in this world, you know, and don't get caught up in the nonsense, and you know, respect what the Father has done for us and appreciate where you are and what I love how you talk about specifically your vocation, your job, your family. Like we go through the day to day and we get silly. We get complacent. We get whiny. We worry about garbage, you know, and when God has given us so many gifts in front of us that we forget to just thank him. And if we can latch on all the things we can be thankful for, there wouldn't be anxiety. There wouldn't be the stress that we put on our shoulders. We would be able to appreciate the beauty of what God has served us. And we all know that God gives us exactly what we need when we need it. And when those struggles come in, that's for us to gain grace and faith. And amazingly done, Father. Awesome homily, awesome delivery, great story.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that you're just like, you're abstract on Christmas, because, you know, normally it's going to be, let's talk about the birth of Jesus. You just come in sideways and then you tie it.
I'm kind of a big fan of how this, because before, you've heard this homily before, but it had a different start and a different kind of core to it. And I like this new version because it does start in a weird way. You're like, why is Father talking about how forgetful?
Yeah, what's going on?
And then it's weird. It's like a strange philosophical point too, or a psychological point, because then you do realize, like, oh wait, yeah, we are. That's a weird thing to know. Like, how forgetful. I don't have to think about how forgetful I am, but I'm really forgetful. And even that line of remembering what you have is a strange line. Like, if you really think about it, why do somebody have to remind me of something that's right in front of me? I haven't forgotten them. They're right there. I don't know. I was a big fan of like this version of it. I think it's even as I listen back to it, it's one of my favorites that I've ever given. If I had to critique myself, it would be, and I have the same problem when I talk, is there's sometimes where in my mind it sounds like I'm not mumbling. Like as it resonates in my skull, it sounds like I'm enunciating my words. But when it's coming out, it doesn't sound to other people like it's clear. It sounds like I'm mumbling, which it doesn't sound to me like that. My brother has the same thing. There's probably the psychologist in the room could probably indicate as to what is wrong mentally. But there's probably something there of and like an inability to catch where it sounds different to you than you're enunciating. But there were parts of the homily that I felt were important that would have been better if I would have enunciated. And I don't, but I think I am. So it's hard to catch myself when I'm enunciating, but I'm not. Anyway, so I think I need to work on that even just in my regular speech. My family's often telling me to stop mumbling. So
Do you think your brain kind of works faster than your mouth sometimes?
I imagine that's a part of it because I'm already thinking of where I'm going next, and I'm so eager to get there. I do think that's a piece of it, but there's probably some like auditory / something's wrong with my brain.
You have great diction regardless, so I think you're overthinking a little bit.
In parts, but I do trip on myself.
Voice. Okay, well, I mean, I love that you identify that. No, I'm setting this up so we can do our grading.
Oh yeah, we need to do grading.
You just deleted my list.
Nope.
You didn't?
That's a new note.
Oh, okay.
This kid thinks I don't know how to operate it.
Come on! What is he doing? Okay.
Apple, TikTok.
He's been on TikTok his whole life. He's been on TikTok his whole life.
Facebooks, TikTok. You know what these kids are doing. All right.
So let's give it a grade.
We do not promote TikTok, by the way. It's a Catholic channel.
I'm gonna humbly give my homily a 9.5. So I don't want to get into your guys' minds, but I'm just gonna, in humility.
You can't throw that number out there. Like that. Jeez, man. Wait at the bar. No, I'm learning mine because we're not supposed to influence each other.
No, we're not supposed to. But I just did.
I give you 9.3. I give you 9.3.
I don't know. I need to really think.
Did you have that down before I messed with you? Because now I feel bad. Because I
did. No, I did. I did. Yep. Okay. I had it in my mind, and I was ready. That was mine. If it was the one when I first saw you, it'd probably been like a 9.7.
I know that's true too.
Which is kind of being biased and weird, but I need to be honest with the experience, So
yeah,
the first time is so different because you kind of like knew what to expect in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry, Juliana.
So go ahead.
9.2.
Okay, 9.2. All right, very good. Very good.
I feel like a 10 is like just like boom.
Yeah,
but that was really good. Like that was.
I don't know,
good,
man.
But also, I
think like a 10, you gotta cry.
Yeah, and once again, it might be a part of just you have to be there in the moment with the atmosphere.
Yeah,
for sure.
If you were there, you'd have given it a 10. Like,
you would have. I mean, I'm just saying. But no, I do think I could see homilies being better than this.
Maybe like
because
one or two better.
It would need, yeah, exactly. It would need the engagement of mine, but with slightly more profound insight. Because my insight's good. It's great. Okay, but it's not like maybe a 10 level insight.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it also might be applicability to where you're at in your life and how you receive it. I think that is always a consideration. Homily. Yeah. If it strikes me to the core. Again, if I heard yours for the first time, it was me and Father Schmuckatelli. We're reviewing homilies, and we spun up on Brainerd and saw Father Bo's first one. I'd be like, dude, 10, let's go. Maybe. I know when I first heard it, when I was there, it was super profound, and Yeah, I mean,
Man.
I just love the message because it's such a, you are creating a mindset that we can apply to our lives daily outside of Christmas, and then you bring in the fact that we have to remind ourselves because we are so complacent with our minds, we're so complacent with our day to day that we just get lost in the sauce, and we don't think about every single day we should be working towards what the Father has given us the opportunity to work towards, and then
Yeah,
what He gave
yeah.
us, He gave His Son to be able to allow us the opportunity to work towards to heaven, to salvation. And we get so silly with the Hakuna Matata. I'm gonna use that. I'll be like, dude, stop Hakuna Matata over
Exactly,
there, bro.
but it's crazy
Like,
because
get out of
everybody's
here,
like,
Hakuna
"Don't attack
Matata
my
life.
yeah, don't attack my Kuna Matata," because everybody loves that moment in that song, but it really is it's a negative. It would be a terrible story if that's what it ended with.
Yeah, because it's him running away from himself
Yeah, yeah,
and his responsibilities, his
and yeah,
duties, his everything.
difficulty. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's weird because even listening back to it without being there in person, I'm not gonna lie. This is gonna sound like I'm full of myself, but I love this homily. Like this is something that I want to share to others. Like I
Mhm.
like listening back, there were moments where I was like, "Oh my gosh, what did I just like? How did this even happen?" I just think it's one of my favorites for sure. It's one of my favorites, and even this newer version, I think I really appreciate it. So thank you guys for listening to it. It was a little bit longer than our other homilies, but in part it's the
It
the
fell
story.
short, though. It fell short. It fell short. That's the cool thing
yeah.
about good homilies. They feel short.
I mean it.
He said it's 13 minutes, so yeah. I mean, it felt like 5. It's cool.
Right,
It's
right.
really cool when you're enveloped into the delivery of the priest, and you just really you're listening. It goes quick, and it's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, thank you both. So that concludes. I don't know what episode this is for our righteous review on the Father Bo Show. But I want to thank Jake and our special guest Juliana for joining us. So thank you for your insight and for listening to me speak. And hopefully we'll have you on again. But thank you everybody for listening. Take care, and we'll see you in the next one.